to safeguard the safety of South Sudanese is stranded in Sudan. Another critical item we'll also delve into is the economic situation and the salary for civil servants and armed forces. Joining me live in the studio, ahead of me is Mr. Stephen Omiri, our iRadio station manager, who will be taking us through critical, our CEO for iRadio, and he's also a certified economist who will be taking us through the economic aspect of the country. Next is Emmanuel Joseph Akila, our Dawn Show host. And lastly, on my right hand is Mr. Jacob Alwong, who is a finance and business development manager at iRadio. Good to have all of you, and thank you for joining us on this particular hour.
Thank you so much.
To start our conversation, our CEO, there were video footage circulating on social media, allegedly that that involves South Sudanese, being slaughtered or being killed in Wad Madani during the time SAF, recaptured the town. What is your take on that? This now has caused to the current situation or to the current unrest that the country is in for now. What is your take on that?
Thank you, Will. And from the information that we have currently, is we know that the Minister of Foreign Affairs, immediately when this issue came up, the Minister of Foreign Affairs took the issue immediately and summoned the Sudanese ambassador to South Sudan to understand exactly what happened. And so we know that the government has took a step immediately from that end, from the ministry side, and we heard that the ambassador assured the people of South Sudan and also assured the country that they are taking steps as a country to ensure that the individuals who caused this inhumane act will be held accountable. So that is from the first part, because that's the first, when we add the first government response was that. We also, within this week from yesterday, we saw the government taking more steps. The Office of the President issued a statement at night after young people started doing protest, because what we are seeing currently is more like a protest. It's not a conflict, in my opinion. It's more young people running around, trying to going to shops, and so that is purely a protest, in my own opinion. It's not a violent type of thing. So the Office of the President called for calm. So the spokesperson for the Office of the President speak for the President, and she said last night that the President is calling for the people of South Sudan, particularly young people, to be calm and maintain peace and law and order. So that is another step that is taken by the government. And today we are hearing police, and I think the police has done a commendable job. Sometimes it's good to appreciate step taken by the system. So we have, even over last night, we're hearing guns, but guns are being shot in the air to chase away the young people who are trying to break into shops. So basically, from what I know, is there were this video that were circulating, and as a result of the videos and also the result of the reaction by South Sudanese, the government moved in to take that step. So that's what I can say from what I know based on the information available. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Emmanuel Joseph Akila, what is your take on that?
Yes, first of all, I agree with what Stephen was saying. In addition to what he said, as we speak, we are expecting the SSPDF spokesperson, Major General Lurai Kong, also to hold a press conference, and it's also about the current situation. And also, as he said, commended the police. The army has also done its part. As we were coming in the morning, we also saw soldiers on the road trying to maintain law and order. We are also expecting a few minutes from now also Angelina Teny, who's the Minister of Interior, also to hold another press conference. Let's not misinterpret also what the IGP said earlier this morning on SSBC. He did not say that they are going to. He did not announce curfew from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. as it was actually, and the correct information was reported on iRadio website. So we do understand that the president is the only person who can announce curfew. So to our public outside there, let's not misinterpret the statement of IGP that curfew has been announced. It has not been announced, but the government is considering it. Another issue also I would add, we should not our anger as young people, the protest, like Stephen said, where our anger, we should not be gearing towards the wrong people. The Sudanese who are here, many of them actually ran from Sudan because of the conflict. Now we cannot give them hard time here again as South Sudanese. These are brothers and sisters who ran from the conflict. These are traders who came here to do business. They have nothing to do with the conflict in Sudan. So we all have the right, as enshrined in the Constitution, to have peaceful protests, but we should not loot, we should not beat, we should not harass the Sudanese who are here. This is what I can say for now.
Thank you, Emmanuel Joseph Akile. Mr. Jacob, do you have something to add on this?
I totally agree with my colleagues who have made some impressive comments. Yes, the crisis came as the result of the recapture of Medani, where some videos came out or emerged on on social media, and this has angered most South Sudanese. They went to Sudan embassy to protest with placards, but last night it went out of hand, and yes, the government is trying to control the situation, but we also need to recognize the situation the country is going through. So, there is this protest against the killing of South Sudanese in the Sudan, but there are young people also who are going through difficulties. So some of them use the cover of the night to do what they did last night. And the ongoing threat, of course, we know against the Sudanese people in form of protest. Yes, it is happening, but we still believe government will maintain law and order. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacob Alwang. Now, back to you, CEO. As a country, what do we do now to make sure our stranded South Sudanese in Sudan are protected amid this ongoing unrest?
We have to appreciate that we are an independent country, and a country that is run by constitutions, and a country that has a president, that has an army, that has a police. We have to appreciate that, because if there's anything that happens and is from between the country and country, then it should be we should be asking our government to now take it up with the other government, not us taking law into our hand. If we do that, then we don't appreciate our own government, because we have a government in place that we every day, I myself pay taxes every month. And I pay tax where, because there's a government and there's a law in the country that said I should pay tax. And because of that respect, we must respect our government by ensuring that we actually ask our government to take over the case. If there's, people must be held accountable because it's a human right abuse. If there's a compensation, it will be between the two governments to do that. So that's what we need to the country. For young people, it is important to respect yourself, because you see, you are going through hardship, but through that confusion that you want to break into another person's shop, assume that the person you are breaking into his shop, he has a knife. You can actually lose your life in the process of that emotion and anger. So it is always good not to react based on emotion. It is always good to think that things are happening, but you must always make sure that we take a step back and try to see what is the best way of handling such issues. Because what happened did not happen in South Sudan, happened in the border. We also must be mindful as young people that we have thousands, or if it is not a million, thousands of South Sudanese who are still in Khartoum and in Sudan. And we know that Sudan is a country in conflict. And where there is conflict, in any war zone, people become hostile, people are angry, so you don't need to stay in a war zone area. So our people need to start moving out in the Sudan and come back to South Sudan, because currently Sudan is fighting. There's fighting that is going on, an active war going on in Sudan. So we should not be saying that we want to remain in Sudan, and we know that in any conflict area, people are wild. Soldiers can mess up, and that's what we saw what happened. So it is important that we come on up, we call our young people that we should address our grievances to our government. We should ask our member of parliament to push the government to ensure that our presidents and the Sudan president are talking. Our foreign affairs are speaking. And we know that our government need to update the publics about what is happening, the step they are taking with the other government. That's what needs to be done in a country that is run by constitution, and that's what we should be doing as a country, in my opinion. Not taking law into our hand, not going to rob other people, not wanting to kill an innocent Sudanese that do not know. They ran away from the conflict in their country.
Because of war.
We ran away from the conflict in our country to Uganda. We ran away from conflict to Kenya. We went to Congo, to other countries, because there's a conflict. So they ran away. If they wanted to be active, they will remain there as soldiers or become active in the war. So they are here as innocent people, and we must respect that they are innocent people, but we must work with our government to ensure that the people who were killed should not die in vain. At least they are compensated, and the people who killed them must be held accountable, because there's a government in Sudan. The military is run by command. These individuals who have committed this mistake are known. So that's how you work as a system, in my opinion.
Emmanuel Joseph Akila, Steve has talked about government engagement with Sudanese authorities to make sure those that committed the crimes against South Sudanese are held accountable. Do you have any other insight on that?
Yeah, I think first I agree with Stephen, and something I would add also, especially to young people, because you see many young people are on social media, and about that we have seen disinformation and misinformation circulating around about many people instigating actually the unrest and trying to actually support what the young people are doing, especially in terms of looting and harassing the Sudanese, which is something not really good. And from here we appeal to young people out there to use social media positively. And also, in addition to that, we've seen also some Sudanese on social media have started condemning what has happened here yesterday. We are friends with many of them on social media. They have started condemning this. So if this continues, it will escalate, and it will paint a bad picture between South Sudan and Sudan. And many South Sudanese have good relations with Sudanese, have friends. So we should not create that kind of negative environment or unnecessary condition that is not favorable for both of us to have that kind of relations as sisterly countries. And I'll also commend some pressure groups like civil society organizations and young people who are actually pushing on the government to condemn and to do its part really in terms of informing the people of South Sudan what is happening, like Stephen has just said.
Okay. Mr. Jacob Along, I believe, if not in your area, but in some parts of the areas in Juba City, you know, especially the areas with the Sudanese, last night were attacked, you know, and youth or the protesters diverged from what they had intended to a different thing. They were supposed to stand for their right, okay, calling for peaceful demonstration, for justice for their people that were slaughtered, but then they went into looting now. Do you think it was a placed decision? Do you think that was the best decision for them to do?
So, my colleague Stephen has already said, when a conflict is active, there are always such fault lines that happens. But where I live, of course, where I have people from the Sudanese who stays. Most of them are my neighbors. We know each other. But when the problem started actually in my area around Jebel area. But I was not in the house. I was on the other side of the Nile. I was in Shirkat. So I crossed around 10:30 is when I came back to the house. So when I came to the house and when I called some of them when the issue started, they said, they had actually left earlier. So a few shops were still open, so they were attacked by these young people with the cover of the night. But because this called Jabrona market is just opposite Gerda, so the security forces responded immediately. Even when I came at night at around 10:30, I got security personnel deployed around that market. I came to Jebel Market also just to see before I sleep. And I saw heavy deployment. So they were protecting the market and they were protecting that. But your question of whether these young people deviated from the main activity that they wanted to do, I think the protest was meant to happen during the daytime yesterday. But what happened last night was not like an organized. Protests are organized by informed people. They are not like you just come out of your house in protest and go. But what happened last night, I think, was meant by the young people to use the cover of the night to do what they did. It was not the same protest that went to the Sudan embassy and protest that happened at the University of Juba. So they were using that. But we just need to remember also, I'm not saying, we should use our suffering to cause harm, but these young people are, they play dominos all day long. They don't have anything that they are doing.
They're jobless.
Yeah, they are jobless. They're just sitting there. So they saw this as an opportunity, and I think that is why they, they coordinated in WhatsApp. According to few people I told, they said, I said, how the hell did you guys organize? And I think they have their own network. That's why they came and did what they did. So the country is going through a lot, and I think that one is also contributing. That's why they deviated from the main protest to looting.
Mr. Steve, currently the civil society activists and even the public are really yearning to hear from the president. They are calling on the president to come out publicly and address the nation on this situation. What is your take on that? Do you see that is a good idea from them?
I agree totally, and I want to second what the civil society and the public that are calling for the president to speak. We know that our President Salva Kiir is a president that been part of liberation struggle. He understands the history between the two countries. He has served in two countries in the army. So he has a better understanding than most young people who were born recently, and he knows exactly what needs to be done. We have seen our country has gone through tough times. From 2013 we had conflicts, 2016 we had conflicts, but you see our president all the time ensure that he wants people to come back together to maintain peace. So in other words, you can say he's a man of peace, if you want to assemble like that, because if you agree to always to negotiate with your own brothers and bring them back, and you give them the position because for the sake of the country, it shows you also put the country first. So I will want to add, my boys, that as the president of the nations, as the father of the nations, and most young people listen to his voice, is for him to come out and actually call for farm, assure the people of South Sudan that his government is doing his best. They might not see a lot of things happening now, but he's talking to his counterpart through phones, through messages, through ambassadors. So you need to assure the public that let us stay calm. We are discussing this thing, and this thing will be resolved. That's what most people are looking for. And so that is what I want to say, that our president should come out and address the nation and call for calm. These protests should not continue. Sudan and South Sudan are sisterly country. They used to be one country. We are now two independent countries that respect each other. We have a mutual bilateral relations. We have against social, cultural and social affiliation in different way. We share foods. That Sudanese eat the same food that we eat. So we have a lot of common things that we share as Sudanese people, South Sudanese and Sudanese. So we have a lot of things in common. We might be having a different racial identity, but we have a lot of things in common because we have lived together for many years. And this, I'm told today, the most spoken language at home is Dinka. The second to it is Arabic. The reason why it is Dinka, the most spoken language, is because if you take the population of the country today, Dinka remain the largest population of the country. So the statistic will show that if you are speaking at home, you will definitely speak in your mother tongue. The same thing with Arabic. Most people, we are having, whether it's Juba Arabic or Basic Arabic, everybody wants to speak in Arabic. English is the third language that is being spoken today. So there's a lot of common things that we share with Sudanese as a South Sudanese. And we need to appreciate that thing because there's a power and there is a strength for us to have a good bilateral relation with Sudan and South Sudan. And that is where, so we'll want to encourage our president and the advisors for him to come out and address the nation, assure the young people that his government is in control and they are doing the best to ensure that the two countries are working together. Because so far, police has done very well. Army has done very well. So far, we have not had any casualties. They tell you the police has done their best, and we must appreciate what they have done. We must also appreciate our army and the security that they have done their best by ensuring that young people do not harm others. And so far, until we get more information, there is no casualty that has been reported that we have in our nears. And that is a good thing. We must appreciate that, and we must acknowledge the effort that are being done. So let our president, we want to hush him. He's the father of this country. He's the father of the nation. Most people look up to him. for good governance, for a better country. So you need to address and assure the country that he is in control and is talking to his counterpart. That's what I want to urge.
Steve, thank you very much. It was really a good input, highlighting how we, our communism, with Sudanese. You have highlighted very well on the social aspect. Can you briefly give us an highlight of it also on the international relations, on the international aspect?
You see, if you talk about, so take for example, what is the backbone of this country is what? It's the oil.
Yes.
So where are our pipelines?
In Sudan.
They are in Port Sudan. I think the exit point is, so we have, from that point alone, it shows that we have a very strong bond with Sudan. Sudan is benefiting, we are benefiting. Politically, Sudan trusts our government to mediate. We have seen them coming here to mediate on the conflict. We've heard Buran speaking, said they trust South Sudan. They rejected Kenya in the first place, but they accepted our president because there's that trust, something that we share as people. So we must build on that trust and ensure that the two countries live together and share in economic issues, build their social, build their economy and build their politicals. Because even most South Sudanese started politics in universities. I started in East Africa. There's no single day that I have discussed politics at the university. I'm so naive in politics today because I did not participate in politics. But most South Sudanese who study in Khartoum, even here in the University of Juba, they are active in politics.
They become politicians.
They become politicians when they're in university. This is because they brought this culture and from Sudan. So there are good things that we need to appreciate, in my opinion, and it's important that we hold on those good, positive aspects. And when a life is lost, it's lost. You don't change it. So what you need to do is work very hard to do that. There's a compensation. And the same thing should not happen again. So I also want to call on Sudanese who are on social media, that they should not fuel also, because there are people who are a lot of hearing, because social media always has something small can become big because it's being shared by so many people, and it might not be true because there's no way you can verify the information. So I want to call upon Sudanese and South Sudanese, as Akile said, let us use social media positively. It is a place that you can actually make money, not to create conflict. Instead of creating conflict and run away, why don't you use social media to create content? They will give you money to make you more financially stable. That is what you should use social media, or use social media to create a forum of discussion and knowledge and ideas so that you can learn from your colleagues. That's how you should use this. So there's a positive aspect of social media and there's a negative aspect of social media. But just to conclude, Sudan and South Sudan are sisterly country, and we have a lot of things to share in common, and we should appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Steve. Emmanuel Joseph Akela, do you have a take on that? Lastly,
I think I agree with him, and I can just give a brief testimony of recently I was in Kampala, and I was just seated outside, and there was this one Sudanese. Many Sudanese also now in Uganda. Many of them are especially in Kampala. So this old woman was coming from her apartment. She was waiting for her daughter to come out, and I looked at her. She was coming, like she looked tired, and she was standing. So I had to stand up, and I gave her from the look and the way she dressed, this top of Sudanese, I knew she's a Sudanese. So I told her, Haja, further the kursi. Then I stood up and I gave her the seat. So when I spoke to her in Arabic, she thought I was a Ugandan. When I spoke to her in Arabic, girl, it's a Sudani? I told her, no, I'm not a Sudanese, but I'm a South Sudanese. She said, it doesn't matter. We're all one. We're all Sudanese, You can see that feeling. They still don't feel that we call ourselves South Sudanese. They still look at that bone of us as Sudanese. So we should actually embrace on that. And this is something that will continue to unite us as Sudanese. Let's not forget also, we also have intermarriages between Sudanese and South Sudanese. Not forgetting there are so many Sudanese who are Christians. So when you talk about intermarriage, there are people from Nuba Mountain. Many of them are they are Sudanese, and many of them are Christians. So that relations has also been there. So let's actually keep it up, and let's not break that relations, especially between the two countries and also the two communities.
Thank you, Emmanuel Joseph. Jacob, do you have something to add on?
Well, yeah, I just have something to add on the diplomatic level. You know, we rely on our Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Same thing, and that is the only channel we communicate with our friends on the other side of Sudan. So I think, you know, communication is very important. When something like that happens, it should be acknowledged so that we, the people of South Sudan, would also say the government is not part of what happened. But when the response is written, like there's that letter that is floating online, is causing some sort of dissatisfaction, because you just read it, it doesn't help, and that's why I say up there, our two governments really need to sit and close that information gap. A language that is diplomatic, because those who have lost their loved ones need some soothing words. Not some rhetoric.
At least to comfort them.
Yeah, to comfort them. Instead of saying the villagers were killed, that was undiplomatic. So I think it should be addressed at that level. And our ministry also should also
engage,
give a very diplomatic language. I mean, should portray that they care for their own people. Cannot be complacent in responding to what happened. South Sudanese are hurting, so we expect that. And yes, of course, we are friendly countries, but what happened, it has happened, but we need now to see how we can all move forward. And that, that should come with assurances that the situation is contained. What happened is not happening now, because we have seen those things on social media, but maybe there are things that we have not seen. So we expect our counterparts to come out and say it has stopped happening and will not happen, and then this is the way forward. This is how you interact. Even if you are brothers and sisters, that is how you plant trust between the two people. But yes, we are like conjoined twins with the Sudan. We have a mutual economic interest that we rely on. My colleague Stephen has talked about it, how our oil pipeline passes through Sudan to the Red Sea. That is fine, but that is not a leverage to treat some people differently. This is our interest. Our number one interest is the people, and then economics comes. So that's what I think.
Thank you very much. If you are just joining us now, this is Around South Sudan, a program that comes to you every Friday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on iRadio's Facebook page and also on iRadio's YouTube channel. My name is Walma Pal, sitting in for Lasuba Memo, and in this particular discussion we have discussed a critical item, and that is the ongoing unrest in most parts of the country, particularly Juba and other towns of South Sudan, about the alleged killing of South Sudanese in Madani. And this has sparked, speculations from South Sudanese demanding for justice of their people. We have just concluded that discussion, and my guest in the studio is Stephen Omiri, who is the CEO or the Chief Executive Officer of iRadio. And then next to him is also Emmanuel Joseph Akile, the Dawn Show host. And lastly is Mr. Jacob Along, who is also our Finance and Business Development Manager at iRadio. Let's go for a short break, and we shall be right back. And when we come back, we'll also delve into another discussion, and that is now the salary and the economic situation in the country. Don't go far. Stay tuned.
For this that shape our nation. Each week we explore the most impactful headlines that are shaping the narrative in South Sudan. We delve into issues related to national development, peace building, politics, culture and economics. To stay informed and engaged, tune into Around South Sudan and be part of the conversation that matters. Subscribe now and join us for the stories that connect us all. Together, let's explore the heart of South Sudan. Welcome to Around South Sudan. You go to podcast for the stories that shape our nation. Each week we explore the most impactful headlines that are shaping the narrative in South Sudan. We delve into issues related to national development, peace building, politics, culture and economics. To stay informed and engaged, tune into Around South Sudan and be part of the conversation that matters. Subscribe now and join us for the stories that connect us all. Together, let's explore the heart of South Sudan. Welcome to Around South Sudan. You go to podcast for the stories that shape our nation. Each week we explore the most impactful headlines that are shaping the narrative in South Sudan. We delve into issues related to national development, peace building, politics, culture and economics. To stay informed and engaged, tune into Around South Sudan and be part of the conversation that matters. Subscribe now and join us for the stories that connect us all. Together, let's explore the heart of South Sudan. Welcome to Around South Sudan. You go to podcast for the stories that shape our nation. Each week we explore the most impactful headlines that are shaping the narrative in South Sudan. We delve into issues related to national development, peace building, politics, culture and economics. To stay informed and engaged, tune into Around South Sudan and be part of the conversation that matters. Subscribe now and join us for the stories that connect us all.
Welcome back from that short break. Now, as we delve into another discussion, we are going to focus on the accumulative unpaid civil salary for more than 10 months, and also the economic or the dire economic situation in the country. With me in the studio, we'll start definitely, as I mentioned earlier, we have a certified accountant, and that is our CEO, our Chief Executive Officer for iRadio. Mr. Steve, government employees and civil servants or the armed forces have gone more than 10 months without salary. And this is the fact that the government is unable to pay them. And this has also caused, the economic instability in the country. What is your perspective on that?
Sometimes one sympathizes with the civil servants because, you see, it's not easy to survive for one good year without earning your salary, and you have a wife, you have children, and then you have to feed them. You are the head of the family. Or maybe you are a single mother, you're also the head of the family. But also situations cause some of the thing from the information that we have. And the information that is in public domain is the issue was triggered by the shutdown of the oil
flow.
Because as a country, I said earlier, our backbone or our only source of information, which is 90, I'm told is 98% revenues come from the proceeds or the sales of oil. Now, when you have that thing that is being affected and you have shut down 70% and you're left with 30% and you have to share 30% with three people, the country, which is South Sudan, the companies, and Sudan, you will definitely know that you don't have money. That is the information that is in public domain. That is information that we are told by the ministry, by the Nile Feds, by the government, that shutdown has affected the shutdown. But then when you have a situation of that situation, because already that is a fact, people have gone for 1 full year without payment. So if you have that situation, as a government, as a country, what do you need to do? That's what we should be addressing as a country. What are the alternatives? Because we cannot be depending on oil every now and then when South Sudan is a very, very fertile country. What do we need to do? And even the little we have, are we managing well? Those are things that we should be asking ourselves. So for me, there's nothing much I can say. It's only to sympathize with the people who have gone for 1 good year without salary. And maybe ask the government to look for alternatives. Look for alternatives, and maybe when time allows, we'll be able to discuss those alternatives.
What are those alternatives?
Basically, as we move forward, because we are still getting 30% from we are still getting, because we are told 7% was affected from the information we have, then we should be now thinking of investing in agriculture. You know, there's something that you can do within 1 year or 6 months, and you have enough supply of food. Maize. How long does it take maize to plant maize? I don't think it takes many months it takes a year for you to harvest a maize. I am not an agriculturalist, but my colleague might be who have
3 months.
Yeah. So if you invest in places like Ye, if you invest in places like Yambio, and you open a road, assume you don't have money, but you're doing a Maram road, you will feed the country with maize that is coming purely from this place. If you go to Jungule, you can use even water from the river, because we have a lot of water, even here in Juba. So a government need to be creative. We must use the little we have wisely to feed past, make something, put something in your stomach. So if you cannot give me salary, give me food. And food is what we can afford. Because we can suffer for 3 months or 4 months, but you can have, after harvest, we can also have something. That's what Kenya government just did recently. They invested in fertilizer, they invested in maize, and Kenya were crying ugali was this. After a few months, they are no longer talking about ugali, because maize is available. So that's what our government need to do. The little we will collect from also, from non-oil revenue, how are we spending it? How are we spending it? Are we spending it well? Is it good for a government for us to drive B8, B6? Is it right? Why do we need them when we are suffering? For me, we don't need them. Because that money, you can buy a Land Cruiser for other people, and the important officers cannot drive those big vehicles because they are important people, they need to be protected. But the rest can drive a normal car. Why do you want to drive a car that you cannot fuel, that can cost government or government a lot of expenses? Why don't you drive a car that is fuel that can consume economically? So we need to be wise and innovative in the way we address economic issues. Otherwise, if we are only depending on the oil, then the country will continue to be like this. Because also, even when we used to have oil flowing, people used to skip months without salary. Not because the oil shut down that there was no salary. There was some other month that people used to go without salary.
When the oil was flowing.
When oil was flowing and the money was available. So why? Because we need to manage, it's called public finance management. We need to public resources, because government has no own money. There's no government that own. Government is not a business enterprise. Government use people money. That is what is entrusted into them. And they are managing on behalf of the public and the people. So if the people are suffering and the government has the money, or the government is misusing the money, then there's a problem in that country. That is my take in the economics, and that's the area I love and write about so much. Thank you.
Jacob Long from the finance background and business management. What is your take on this? Steve, I've talked about investing on agriculture instead of only relying on oil. What is your take on that? What do you think we should do as a country?
You know, as a country, we have to, we manage countries like families. When a family, economy collapse, your kids will be out. You will not convince them to come to the house at 5. You will never convince. They will always be staying outside there. So we started messing up, I think, from 2013. We have never come back on track from 2013. It's when we lost the control. Being a driver, you lose control. You go over and then you fight to come back to the main road. This is where we are. We are still in the bush trying to come back to the highway to steer the country forward, but we are not managing. Until we start behaving like we are in trouble, we will never get out of trouble. The crying of salaries is just a symptom of the economic, the collapse of the economic pillars that we have. An economy should have that pillars that stream revenues to the government. It's not just, even the budget you saw on our desks here, these are figures. There's nothing to back them up. They are meant only to help, with the hope that the oil revenues will stream in, non-oil revenues will stream in, and other small revenues like gold and everything, and then agriculture will all stream in to support all this. But here we are. We are off-road, but we are just sitting like this. Our hands are just on our laps waiting for oil money to come. And oil is just a liquid. If anything, tamper with it. Like what happened when fighting was happening in Sudan. It was blown up and it started spilling into the desert. And we did not earn any money. What was our plan B? There was no plan B. So if you are saying, what can we do? Yes, we are off-road now. We need to slow down and start thinking. Don't spend what you don't have. If you continue borrowing, at the end of the day, you will be sued and taken and dragged to court. We need to really think and implement measures that can really save us out of this. So we need to diversify our economy, basically. So that's what we need to do. Diversifying the economy is like agriculture. We invest in agriculture, like my CEO said. There's no country that can just do, even if you have, when we turn this Jebel Kujur as a mountain of gold that we'll be chopping every day, and we are not producing food, we will just be chopping the Jebel Kujur, sell it, and then surrender the money to someone else who is producing. So we need to produce. But then, our population is still displaced. Who should be producing? The people, yeah? Where are the people? My Payam in 2008 used to have 51,000 people according to the 2008 census.
Statistics.
If you go now, maybe they are like less than 1,000 people. Some of them are in refugees camp, some are languishing here in the suburbs of Juba, some have crossed to Lake State. They are not producing. You go to Ye. Ye was like a bread, but it used to contribute 25% to Juba, food. But after 2013, it's gone. So the little money we get, we chop it to Uganda, then chop some to Kenya, and then chop some there. And then we say we are not paying salaries. So salaries are basically just a reward we give to our civil servants. But we should have these sources of revenues, where revenues should be streaming to pay our people. Until we take those measures, we're not going to get out of it soon.
Yeah, if I can add something on the the part of the V8, like recently I was in Kampala for some days. I only saw 3 V8s. I was moving around. I only saw 3 V8s for more than 8 days. I've been moving around, but only 3 V8s of Ugandan government number plate. And the rest of the V8s I saw they are all with SSD in Uganda. So you can see how much money we are actually wasting and taking outside the country. Or maybe some people will say they like V8 because they don't want to fix the roads, because when you're inside the V8, you don't even feel the potholes. You can just, like you're in tarmac road. But something I would like to add on the part of agriculture, 2 years or last year we spoke to some farmers in Rang. Some of them complained. they have surplus, production of food. Sometimes they get rotten because there's no market. Everyone has food, but then they're even complaining, even UN agencies, they're supposed to go and buy from them, but, they prefer to buy from Uganda near here because there are no roads. So I think it's also very important for the government to prioritize infrastructure in terms of connecting South Sudan, connecting states, especially states that are producing food, and above all also, if I can add, the issue of security. Many South Sudanese are farmers, but how will I go to my village and farm, for instance, when I am not feeling secure, when I will be attacked by a non-gunman, you see? So if the government should really take the issue of improving security, especially in the producing states or areas, it will actually encourage more farmers. But also not only agriculture. Look at Kenya, for instance. You'll see in terms of people going to Kenya for vacation, you see. So we have Badingilo Park here, we have other... how many parks we have? We have more than 7 national parks. Why can't we also use the oil money to improve that sector as well? To attract more tourists, and this will also boost in terms of generating more income instead of only relying on oil.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel Joseph Akile. Steve, looking at the oil resumption in Block 3 and 7 in Upper Nile State, what difference do you think it's going to make compared to when it was flowing before it was disrupted in 2024?
I think the difference is to hide the government, and I want to speak a lot of that this time around the president should pick right people, and I want to encourage that also should pick young people who are who have ideas, because the world has changed. We are in a world of innovation and technology, so the whole people are there to advise, but young people many young people should be in his government, and it's good for his legacy. It's a freedom fight. He's the one who brought us out from referendum to have a new country. He will not change them. Those are things that he's nurtured, he followed through, and we had a new country. So there must be a legacy for the president, and legacy for the president is to ensure that the citizens are happy. A happy citizen is a productive citizen. An healthy citizen is a productive citizen. And a citizen that is happy because he has money in his pocket and he has put it in his stomach or her stomach. And you can do that by ensuring that you have right people in your government who are not necessarily after wealth. There are people in this country that have managed institutions well, and we must always make sure that we have right people in our country. So the money that we are going to get, if the oil resumption is happening and we are going to get the first thing we need to do as a country is now pay all the arrears of people who did not get the salary pass, pay them. It's their responsibility, it's their right. The second thing is government must scale down on this thing called maintenance allowances for the offices. The reason why the government is running and people are running big vehicles, because the salary is a small thing. There's a lot of money for, they are called what office, the money that you use in the
operation
office.
Services,
operation money. It's a lot of money. That's why do you see cars still being fueled. People are still doing well. So the government should concentrate on paying salary and ensuring that if there's money, clear the arrears and start paying civil servant on monthly basis without missing. Because I don't think if civil servant, I don't know the exact statistics, but I don't think if there is a huge civil servant. It's a very small civil servant, because most of us are in NGOs world, most of us are in private sector. So the people who are working for the government are very few. So we must use the oil money well, but also we must make sure that we ensure that South Sudan peace implementation is finalized. It has to be finalized. So if we have to look for money to ensure that we invest money to make sure that the joint forces are deployed, and there's no two armies in this country. We have one president. We should pay our allegiance to one leader, not many leaders. We must make sure that we have one president we can hold accountable, because we having many political parties who are CNC of this group, CNC this group, CNC of that group. So who do we hold accountable? So we must make sure that we invest the money to have one president, one leader, and deputy or vice president, so that we hold an elected members of parliament, so that we don't complain about the government. We complain to our MPs that we give you 4 years and you promise that you will go with the national government and build this road. No, you have not done it, my friend. Your 4 years, Roba, we want to bring another person because you have failed us. So we want leaders, we want to go to election, use the money to make sure that we have a transition. We have a transition, we elect leaders who are whole accountable, and we are professional in institutions that are very important. Minister of Finance must have a very important person. Central Bank must have a very important person who is knowledgeable, understanding. We should not recycle people. So we should not recycle people. You were the Minister of Finance the other day, you are brought back. You are the Governor of Central Bank, you are brought back. So if you are doing well, why were you removed in the first place?
Sure.
Was it a break? No, there was no break in government. So we must, when you remove, you have served your term, we must bring new people with new ideas who are working for the president in the interest of the public. Because if I said, if the public is happy, then the president will have a peace of mind because his citizens are happy. And they will celebrate him and they'll be happy because why do you complain when you're ready, your kids are going to go to school? You are going to hospital here in Gudele, not in Kenya or Uganda. Why do you complain again when services are available? Then you celebrate your leader because he has brought you all what the independent country must be. So if the oil resumption happen indeed and the revenue start flowing in to our coffers, my president, my request is let us clear the arrears, let us invest in agriculture, let us ensure that we go for election. Let's elect new leaders that are people-centered leaders, not leaders who are appointed and they pay their allegiance to their political parties. No, we should pay our allegiance to our constitution, not individual or not political parties, because our constitution is the equalizer.
And to add on that, since you mentioned the peace agreement, and you know how huge, or let's say the size of the government that we have, and in a way it can also be attributed into this issue of money not being seen actually in the government, because if we have elected MPs like Stephen is saying, we'll have a small number of MPs. You will not have 650, you see. And you know the 650, all of them, they need their sitting allowance, they need their medical allowance, sometimes the other day the car allowance, you know. So the money in the coffers of the government, it's going to the executive, you see, and we are generating a lot of money. The other day you saw the governor of Jungle Estate talking about monthly receiving PIT of about 190,000. But if the money is being managed well, but in all the states, you see, the civil servant at least would receive something small every month, and they will survive on that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what I can add on, if the oil, started to flow, I think that would be, it was supposed to start on the 8th of this month.
Yeah.
I don't know now if it is flowing or not, but if they start pumping oil, they really need to sit down. You know, the meaning of the budget is to bring priorities forward and see which one is the priority. We have said then the management itself. Our biggest problem is the management. It starts from the management then, where you prioritize something that is not even a priority, maybe item number 100. Yet there are top priorities that the government should use to pursue. You know, you cannot have, you know, a powerful government when you don't have money, actually. So our problem needs to start with the public financial management. They need to be managed, and management is about, laying out priorities and then invest that money from the oil in those priorities. We have talked earlier about agriculture, we talk about roads. Because even if you produce food in Magui, for example, and you don't have road, it cannot come here, or they cannot even sell, and they will be discouraged next year. So our problems have multi-layers. I keep saying our problem have multi-layers. This layer, you can peel this layer off, but there's still another layer off. But if we learn how to manage our money and be humble and be disciplined to our resources, because you must live within your means with what you have. You cannot go and borrow when you have this money. There's never enough money. The enough money is the money that you have planned, especially based on the priorities. Otherwise, we will continue to suffer if we receive and waste it. Waste it on V8, waste it on hotel. As we speak, 61 million. You have had the case on the East African Court of Justice. 61 million. If oil money comes today, 61 million might go. And that is, where was it spent? In hotels. By these political parties. I don't know how many they are. And more is still coming in to mine. It is a never-ending game here in South Sudan. So it must start with the priorities, I can say.
Yeah, just let me add on priorities.
Yes, you're welcome, Steve.
As Jacob just mentioned, a very important point. A budget is like a roadmap to everything that you do. And so, as we move forward as a country, we must prioritize the young people. We must prioritize, in economic, there's factors of production. Entrepreneurship is one of them. If you look at the market of South Sudan today, the entire market is foreign driven. Whether the land is mine but you rented it for 20 years so that or 30 years I get it back, I don't want it. It's somebody is getting money. So we must base in our young people. One, invest in young people, create youth enterprise fund and put young people in groups so that they can go into the market. So that you can now start trading and having money so we don't rely on there. But the government must have it. In other countries, there's money that is put for the young people. You borrow, and then you have also a period that will take for you to start paying back. But you have to establish yourself. And also we have to be trustworthy. That when we are giving money, we don't go now and buy a new trouser and a new car. No, we're buying it because we want to grow it for us to become financially independent. So when a priority for me, as we move forward, is we must base in our young people. So the population is young. And those young people, when you see them, we talk about them running on the road today because they are desperate. Some even, I saw one carrying this dummy thing for the cloth. This is called, the one you put cloth on is called a dummy or something. He want to go and sell it. This is desperate, he's looking for money. So we must invest in our young people. If we invest in them, we allow them to go to the market. And there are many bright South Sudanese who study business, who can mentor young people. So let's prioritize our thing and get the needs that we have for our people. That's what I wanted to add. If we don't do that, if today I woke up in the morning, shops are closed. So if Sudanese close all the shops, where do we buy utensils? Where do we buy food? So we know the shop, we know very well now. We have Ugandans that have the business that Ugandans are specialized in. We have businesses that Kenya are specialized in. We have businesses Somalis are specialized in. We have businesses Sudanese are specialized in. We have businesses Nigerians are specialized in our country. Ours is, we pull what is called what? Wheelbarrow. Because we don't have the capital. So we need to invest in our young people. That is what we must prioritize. The Ministry of Youth must work, must have training of young people so the young people can go to the market and they start doing something for themselves, for their family, and then now they become productive members of society.
They also complain about tax.
Steve,
City council also.
Steve, there is also this idea from government officials that I've been hearing from them. They always say young people are not ready to work.
They are lazy.
That they are lazy to work, and especially that they are not ready to take up the manual works. These works or these manual works that that have been owned by the foreigners in this country, that young people are not ready to work. For instance, that a South Sudanese gentleman cannot work in a restaurant.
That is a stereotype, and we should not be encouraging things like that, because in a country where there is hardship, everybody work. We have seen a young lady who is doing masonry. She's called somebody I told she's from Warab. She finished a senior 4, but she wanted to show to people that that job cannot be for men only. She can do it. A very beautiful young lady who are very talented, speak very good English, but she's there. You see her dirty all the time. She's using a brain. Is she not a South Sudanese?
She is.
We have so many South Sudanese who are pushing wheelbarrow. Are they not South Sudanese? Yeah. It is the opportunities that are not there. Opportunities are not there. That's why we sit next to the domina and play chess. Because that's the only thing we keep ourselves busy so that you don't go and pickpocket and all the things. Even there's no buses here you can pickpocket. Because in towns you pickpocket when there's a crowded places. So there's no opportunities. Let us not stereotype our young people. We also need to mentor them. We need to tell them, I mentor so many young people and I advise them that your life is in your hand. You can do something for yourself by working consistently and get something for yourself. So that is a stereotype. I don't believe that South Sudanese are who built Khartoum. I'm told I've never gone to Sudan. I don't even know Sudan. I haven't even gone to Kosti. The only place I went is Rangia or even not far.
Rang is not Sudan. Sir.
Yeah, so I have not gone this place, but I told the South Sudanese has been building Sudan. We have so many of them working here today. So that should not be allowed. What I'm saying, there's no opportunity to South Sudanese, but I'm urging the government, because government is the father of everyone and is the custodian of public resources. They are managing on behalf of the citizens. They must prioritize the citizen need and young people, invest in young people, and you will see the changes you'll make in this country.
Thank you very much. And that brings us to the end of our discussion on Around South Sudan today. We have covered the ongoing unrest and how it should be addressed to make sure our South Sudanese that are in Sudan stay safeguarded. We have also covered about the economic situation and the salary of the civil servants and the armed forces that have gone several months without being paid. We in the studio today, I was actually joined by three important guests, and that is Mr. Stephen Omiri, who is the CEO of iRadio and is also a certified accountant. I was also joined by Emmanuel Joseph Akile, the Dawn Show host, and lastly, I was joined by Jacob Olwong, who is our finance and business development manager, iRadio as well. Thank you, my viewer, for joining us, and I hope you had an informative discussion on this particular or these critical two issues. I've been your host for today, Wal Mapal. Hope to see you next time, and thank you so much.
You go to podcast for the stories that shape our nation. Each week we explore the most impactful headlines that are shaping the narrative in South Sudan. We delve into issues related to national development, peace building, politics, culture and economics. To stay informed and engaged, tune into Around South Sudan and be part of the conversation that matters. Subscribe now and join us for the stories that connect us all. Together, let's explore the heart of South Sudan. Welcome to Around South Sudan. You go to podcast for the stories that shape our nation. Each week we explore the most impactful headlines that are shaping the narrative in South Sudan. We delve into issues related to national development, peace building, politics, culture and economics. To stay informed and engaged, tune into Around South Sudan and be part of the conversation that matters. Subscribe now and join us for the stories that connect us all. Together, let's explore the heart of South Sudan. Welcome to Around South Sudan. You go to podcast for the stories that shape our nation. Each week we explore the most impactful headlines that are shaping the narrative in South Sudan. We delve into issues related to national development, peace building, politics, culture and economics. To stay informed and engaged, tune into Around South Sudan and be part of the conversation that matters. Subscribe now and join us for the stories that connect us all.